Okay, so activation is our differentiation. A lot of other brands out there that supplement, and there's nothing wrong with supplementation. Your body will have depletions as it grows older or as it faces stress, and you do need to reverse those. But if you don't go to the source and fix what's wrong, then it's going to be a short-term Band-Aid fix. And so our whole focus is long-term health by going to the root of what's wrong, with the source of what's either been upregulated or downregulated. And that's why it's so important for us to understand how our products work. Because first we have to identify, okay, here's the problem, what's causing it, what genes are impacting that, and how can we bring that back into balance so we can get the function that we're looking for. One thing that makes us really unique is that understanding of the entire mechanism of action. So we usually start there, do in vitro work in different cell lines. Sometimes we'll do exploratory studies as well to see how some of our products interact together, and that's another unique portion of our business. And then we follow it with actually trying it in individuals. So we'll do kind of an in vitro, in vivo human clinical route before we launch. So we have 5 different things that we have to check the boxes of before we actually launch a product. And Julie's very stringent on it. So if I don't check one of the boxes with my team, it's pushed back. Okay. So first we have to show that it's an activator, or it's an activator support product. So it's because sometimes you have something like a multivitamin and you need those micronutrients to be able to fuel these different processes because our diet has gaps. So sometimes there is that place.
Like a reset?
Exactly, the rise, and so those multivitamins there, and like vitamin D and all those different pieces that are needed for those processes to work well. So it has to check one of those boxes. Then it has to be proven. So we have to have the whole lead up of all the research. If we don't have that prior to launch, it's not launching. It also needs to be demonstrable. So there has to be something you can see, feel, or experience with the products, because it's so hard to tell a story if there's not some sort of transformation. It's not always going to be a visual transformation, but a lot of times it's going to be, maybe it's a blood work where you're seeing differences there, or maybe it's that you're able to run more now and not have that long time of recovery. And that's honestly how I've felt a lot of our products, is because I'm active in that way. When I'm on the products, I have faster recovery, and that makes a big life changer there, because I only have so much time to do the things, and I don't have time to be on the couch moaning and groaning because my muscles and joints are sore. So I need to move on to the next thing. I run, and then I gotta go take girls dance. So that's part of the demonstrability. Delightful is another part of it. We want to make sure that it can easily fit into your routine and not be a drag to take. So we don't want something that tastes disgusting, something that's a horrible experience. We want it to be delightful. And that's actually
belly.
Exactly.
Which is a real thing. Like,
it is.
It takes something, you're like, oh, this is great, but like it makes me want to vomit.
Well, exactly. You feel horrible, and then your quality of life goes down that way, and you're like, okay, and then you have to balance the benefits you're getting from the product versus the downsides of the product itself. So we need to make sure that we're not causing those downsides so that you can feel all the benefits without that. And then the last one is daily, and that's more just to fit into our subscription model. We want products that fit. You're taking daily, they fit into a month subscription so that it's easy to reorder. Because otherwise, if you're on something like every other month, it's easy to drop something out of your routine. So we have to check all 5 of those boxes to be able to launch a product. And especially on the activation point, our team gets pushed very hard to make sure, is this unique? Have you proven it? Is it a clear story you can tell? And is it simple? And so that's really what makes us different, is that we go to the source, longer term fixes through the power of activation versus just supplementation. And so we've applied that to everything. And that's one of the things that's been incredibly interesting, especially as we approached skincare, is we started getting some questions. And we had skincare. We've had it for 13 years. And the way they approached it back then was they created a skincare system. They built it around Nerve 2 because that was our bread and butter. That was our original activator, and it's a powerful product. So they said, okay, let's take the herbs that are in there, that blend, and apply it to skincare. And they had fantastic results, wonderful in vitro, wonderful clinicals on it. but those products had been around for 13 years. And so when I first came 2 years ago, we decided to embark upon a journey to really enhance it. And we kind of, our mantra was keep the best and up level the rest. So we kept that foundation of Nerf 2 that made us so different, and that was kind of our anthem, and then added complementary activations so that we could have more benefits and faster benefits. But it was so funny when we first said we were going to be working on skincare, people are like, wait, what? Are we becoming a skincare company now? And one of the things we had to talk about with everyone is, like, the skin is our largest organ. Like, we're approaching health organ by organ by organ because they all work together, interconnected. And so we can't ignore the largest organ.
Yeah.
And so that's how we approach it, is versus like skin beauty, because the skin beauty comes, but it's skin health. And it's the same approach we take with any of these products, and including our new products, is like focusing on the health aspect and the interconnectivity of all of the different systems and organs. So that's like the quick spiel.
I had acne-prone skin.
Yes.
And was like very resistant to trying anything else because I used something that worked for 10 plus years.
Yes.
And I was like,
And it's hard to change.
Yes. And so I don't even understand how the skincare works. Like, I'm just like, how is this working on my acne-prone skin? And then also, like, you know, for sensitive skin, like, how does it work for every skin type? Like, how does it adapt?
Yes. And so it came down to choosing of the different ingredients. So that's where some of the experience comes in. I've been doing this for a really long time, and I've played around with ingredient after ingredient after ingredient. And where I started my career was in sensitive skin. So I did sensitive skin formulating for 10 plus years. So I was like, okay, I know, and I have it myself. If I have any sort of reaction, you will immediately see bright red or breaking out. I do the exact same thing. And so I became my own guinea pig for lots of different ingredients. But really, it was looking at what's available out there, understanding the safety data and the mechanism of action, and making sure that we get the benefits we're looking for without causing inflammation or irritation or blemishes or
What if
acne.
someone felt a little stinging on their like super sensitive skin, like they use like coconut oil and like super basic stuff? Is there like a start here, like acclimation process that you would recommend?
So what I always recommend, especially with starting new skincare, is it's hard to jump in with an entire system, especially if you do have sensitive skin, because then you can't pinpoint if something is incompatible. So I always say, like, maybe start with a cleanser, because that's incredibly gentle. You get some gentle exfoliation, you'll start seeing some benefits, and then slowly add in one product by product. And then if you identify something that causes an issue, if it's just a little bit, you can potentially keep using it and see if that kind of subsides, if you build up your tolerance. If it keeps irritating, then you just set that one to the side and move on to the next product, and then build a system that fits for you. What we've seen with the vast majority of people is that the whole system will work, but there's always individuals that have very unique skin, and there's certain ingredients that they're just sensitive to that the whole population as a whole doesn't typically react to. And so then at that point, we're just like, customize, you have to do what's best for you. But I would suggest one product at a time, and at least give like at least a few days, but maybe a week in between adding new products. And then you can really observe your skin and see if you're experiencing anything. Then you can feel confident in your routine. So especially if you're paying good money for a routine and you really want it to work, you want to make sure that your skin is tolerant, and you want to introduce it in as easy of way for your skin to get used to it. Because I mean, if you shock the skin like any other organ, it could start freaking out. So easing it in is a good idea. But yeah, let's go ahead and just jump right into your questions. I want to make sure we tackle all of them.
So I love the formulations because I'm big into, I'm a health coach.
Oh, awesome. Okay, that's good to have some background.
So, and also too, my gut issues.
Yes.
So I'm pretty particular on what's in the products. Like with food, I don't buy food that has maltodextrin.
Yes.
I think it's corn-based too, isn't it? In the form of a corn.
Yes, it can come from corn. There can be other sources. We specifically use a non-GMO corn malto at this point. One thing we are doing, and you can find on our website, is by 2030, we're kind of, forget what we're called. We call it, we're cleaning up all of the formulas. We've released a list of what we're going to include and what we're not going to include, both for skin and for ingestibles.
Okay.
And everything moving forward is meeting that clean list or that black list.
So no, like natural flavors is another one.
So natural flavors, that's just an FDA, like how we have to label them. We are very particular about what natural flavors we use.
Okay.
And so we can't like disclose every piece of it, but we're very particular as we choose them. But for example, with the malto, one of the things we've identified is there's another, because we use it as a flow agent, for especially for our drinks like Axio and all of those, because if you can't flow them into the packets, then you're not able to use the product well. And you don't have that mixability into water. And if people can't get it in, then they're not gonna, then you don't have that delightful experience.
Right.
And so we actually found another ingredient that's a tapioca resistant fiber, which has like nice gut benefits anyways, because resistant means it gets down to the colon and feeds bacteria down there. And so there's additional health benefits, and it provides that flow that we need as far as functionality.
Okay.
And so we're actually in the process of working towards replacing our maltodextrin with that.
Okay.
It just comes to what's the right time, especially with like the new launch coming out, and we don't want to bombard everyone with too many things at once, because we've seen when we bombard people with too many things, everyone's like, oh my goodness, you are overwhelming my head. I don't know where to even start. It's going to be phases.
Right.
And so that will be, we're looking at potentially next year for that rollout, because that has been an ask for a while.
Yeah.
And so we're moving away from any intentionally added maltodextrin across the entire line. And so there'll be a plan to address all of the different formulas.
That's good.
Over the next, by 2030, but we're aggressively approaching it.
Toward that.
Mhm.
Okay.
So for someone that is an issue, what do you recommend now? Like
Yeah.
the type that you're using, or like how can you?
Yeah, I mean, usually it depends on what their issue is, because I think what a lot of people see in research, it's like tens and 20s of grams amount of maltodextrin that's causing issues. And we're using as little as we can to be able to get the functionality while still keeping the fillers as minimal as possible. Because like technology is increasing, which is why we're moving to the new ones.
Right.
But in the meantime, we do need to work with what we have. And so we've minimized it as much as we can. And so you would have to ingest way more than what we are suggesting per day to be able to get to a limit where you'd start experiencing some of these side effects. Because something we've seen is blood sugar, and maltos come up with that. And once again, that's maybe 20, I think we decided in the literature it was about 15 to 20 grams per day could influence your blood sugar. We're down like not even a quarter of that. We're really low.
Okay.
And so you do need to consider everything else that you're doing in your diet. So if malto is something that's like, is something that will impact you and impact your gut, then you do need to be looking at holistically at everything you're doing. And so if you're eating clean pretty much the rest of your diet and you don't really have any other sources of malto, then this very small amount that's in our product is not going to be enough to
food that
exactly
is filled
and
with
if this is something that they're really passionate about, then that should be what they're doing anyways. So I think the message would be, look at how you can minimize your malto across the board. And then also the message of we're continuing to move forward as new replacements come out that won't compromise our efficacy, our quality, and experience. We're moving towards them. And that is a commitment. My team, beyond working on new stuff, spends quite a bit of time ensuring, like working on that, identifying new things, new preservatives that are more natural. Fillers that are more natural. Is there another form we can go to that we don't even need a filler? Like all of those different pieces. And then it just comes to when do we roll them out? But the goal will be by 2030. So it's ongoing. Because really at this point, that kind of transparency and move to alternatives as you identify them is expected in this industry. And so we want to do our part and above with that. But that's how I would respond to it, is look at your entire diet, keep it at a minimal overall, and then the 20 milligrams that you're getting from this capsule, it's nothing, because it's all in dosage. But if you're already getting a ton from your diet, then I mean, you're already experiencing any side effects that you're experiencing.
Right.
So that's what I would suggest.
That's good. No, that's good. And then, what about any contraindications, like if somebody has asthma or like me with colitis? Is there
Yes.
things that, like, I don't know.
You experience
Yeah.
Yeah, so
gastro stuff.
Yeah, I did a little bit. I had like a couple.
yeah,
Video.
no, you're completely
I
fine.
went down to a half on the Protandim.
And that's a smart idea of what to do. So kind of contraindications, because I am involved in the quality team that reviews every single, like any feedback we get. We should get it from multiple sources. I get it through quality and I get it through our contact center. They have something called Voice of the Consumer, where any messages that get sent onto them get sent directly to me, and I see everything. And so one thing we do see with Protandim is that the biggest contraindication, and it's not big, like as far as instances, is gastrointestinal as you're getting used to it.
Mm-hmm.
So what we always suggest is start lower and then you can work your way up.
Okay.
Just so that, because you need to be able to take it and still live your life.
Yeah.
And so I think you did the exact right thing with
Okay.
that.
What do you think is happening? Is it like just cleaning up?
That is part of it, yes. Yeah, just different processes that are being turned back on or upregulated that your body's not used to, because our decline, as far as, so for Protandim Nerf 2, it's that your antioxidant production's in decline. And it pretty much starts from the time you're in your 20s, like when you're at your peak, and then stress and age, it's just this downward hill. But sometimes it's gradual enough that you just don't even notice, but you end up at a really low place. And so as you're building everything back up, your whole body's getting used to all these processes working the way they should.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait, we're not used to this.
Yeah.
And so it has to readjust. And sometimes that shows itself in a little bit of discomfort, but then your body is like, okay, we figured this out, it adjusts. If something ends up being long-term, then you want to make adjustments, but usually it ends up just being very short-term as your body's adjusting to it. Because kind of going back to our activation messages, what we're seeing as the source of a lot of these issues is downregulation of things such as your antioxidant protection. And so the stress and oxidative stress of the outside world is increasing because we're living in a world with just not the best food, pollution, etc., just not a clean world. And our own protections are going down. So it's just these competing changes. And so we just end up in this horrible place. And so it's all about bringing it back into balance. With our collagen, it's the same thing. Like from your 20s, your collagen's actually pretty steeply declining. And that's not only just impacting your skin, but it's your joints and all of those, like your gut health, your brain, because collagen's in all of your tissues. And so bringing that into balance by not only supplementation, because that's what everyone else is doing, they're trying to pick the best source of collagen that they can, but ours actually will activate your body's own natural collagen, and it will increase it by 100%. And it also reduces enzymes that will break down collagen. So we have activate, replenish, maintain is kind of our mantra for our collagen, because we're so much more than just a supplement. But what you see is at the source of a lot of all of our products, and the problems they're solving is something's depleting or something's increasing. So you can think, yeah, it's all brings back to that balance. And so that's why we never talk about anything just like turning something on or turning it off. In my mind, that's never healthy. Because if you turn something off, you're dead. If you turn something on, you don't want things to go out of control. So it's all about that balance. And that's what made Protandim Nerf 2 so special, is that because it's working, and our other activators, since it's working with your body's natural processes, your body's able to regulate it. So when it needs it, it turns on. When it doesn't need it, it turns off. So you're optimizing it without overloading it, which I think is incredibly important, because you'll get that response from some people being like, well, if I have this on all the time, will it cause this X, Y, and Z? And we're like, well, it doesn't. And we've shown that through our research, is that it's pulsatile activation, so which just means it turns on when it needs and it turns off when it needs it. So it's kind of like more of like sound dials. You can get a soundboard. You're adjusting it to where you need to get to that optimal level, versus just going like a light switch on and off. And that used to be kind of the old metaphor we used. But then as we've learned more and more about science, we're like, well, we want to turn things up, but it's not a like finite like on-off switch, like black and white. It's more just adjusting it to where your body needs.
Is there, for the Tri-Synergizer, is there a group, like, when do you say Nerf 2 or when do you say try Synergizer? Like, or is there like a group of people or a conversation that like maybe stay away from the try Synergizer might be too much and just stick with Nerf 2? Like, is there
so
a simple way because I get that question a lot, like, well, what's the other ones? Do I need those or, you know, am I good here? You know?
Yeah, so I guess it depends on what they're wanting to accomplish and honestly what their budget ends up being. Because I think your ultimate kind of pack would end up being, if you could do Tri-Synergizer and collagen, you're covering quite a wide spectrum of things.
Yeah.
Because with your Nerf 2, you're activating the protection of the cells.
Mm-hmm.
With Nerf 1, you're energizing the cells. And then with NAD,
That's the mitochondria thing?
correct.
Okay.
And then NAD, you're cleaning out the cells. And that's kind of the whole pathway through SIR2, NAD, and then sirtuins. But you're essentially cleaning it up so that it works more smoothly. So they all work through 3 different mechanisms of cellular health, and they have synergies. So we've shown that with the 3 of them, they each boost synergistically each of their own pathways. You get increased Nerf2 production, like the whole pathway, Nerf1 and NAD, and they work synergistically together. So essentially you're getting your best bang for your buck if you have all 3. And then we've seen the combination of Nerf2 and collagen and that one actually was a really interesting discovery because a lot of people were on Nerf2 and then collagen came out. And then we started hearing all of this feedback. And first it was just like a little bit of noise where we're like, oh, I'm experiencing this, I'm experiencing that. We're like, oh good, I'm so glad you're experiencing this. But then we kept hearing very consistent drum beats of similar stories. And it was enough that I was like, we need to investigate this some. But we actually didn't know what they were doing together. We just saw, oh, my gut's feeling better, or my joints are feeling better, or my brain fog feels better. We're like, none of these can be attributed to just one product on its own. And so we tested the 2 together in fibroblast cells. And the reason we picked that cell type is they make up your tissues. All your tissues, your organs, your joints, they're a very universal cell throughout your body. And we knew that whatever results we got with them, we could apply very broadly to the body. And we saw that the Nerf2 alone did what it was supposed to do. Collagen did what it was supposed to do. But when you put them together, you actually had unique benefits. And we talk about it as breaking the cellular stress cycle. Because of everything our bodies are constantly being assaulted with, we constantly our cells are in a constant state of stress. And so they're not being able to function optimally because they are constantly thinking they're under attack. They're just heightened and waiting for stress. And so essentially what these 2 products did was bring that back into balance. So your cells have the chance to face whatever stress they're facing, conquer it, and then repair and rejuvenate and get ready for the next stress. So they can be working the way they're supposed to. And once we saw that those markers were what was influenced by this combination, we're like, okay, well that explains joints. Because if you're not experiencing that heightened stress in your joints, then you're having repair. Same with gut. If you're not having that heightened stress, then everything's calmed and soothed and in balance. And same for every system. And so we're actually in the middle of a patent for that one because of the unexpected benefits of the 2. And so if they could, I would suggest that combination of the Tri-Synergizer and
so
collagen.
I added an NAD with my Nerf 2 and collagen. Should I just go for the
I would, just because
it'll bring me more energy?
Yes.
The Nerf 1?
Yes, and it'll energize all of your systems as well because they all need ATP. Go back to high school biology is the currency of the cell, and it's what it needs to be able to function. It fuels all of our processes. And so if that's depleted, then your cells aren't running as optimally. So it will fuel your cells so that you end up getting optimal function.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, and then you see the synergies. So the reason I like all those products together is that it's not a 1 + 1 = 2 kind of situation. We call it like a 1 + 1 = 3 or 4 or 5 because you're getting all these additional benefits and heightened benefits from combining all of the products. And it I alluded to that a little bit earlier because we test a lot of our products together. We understand how they work together so that we can suggest them.
Yeah.
Because I think before, what a lot of companies will do is just get on all of our products. Oh, because they'll just be good to each other, good with each other. They'll do this, this, and this, but they don't actually know how they interact.
Yeah.
And we actually put the time and energy into understanding how they do interact. So we can actually say, no, there's a reason to take all of these together, and here's this new benefit you get that you unlock with this. And so, yes, I would suggest adding the nerve one. But the long answer to that question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Cool.
What other questions can I help answer?
Happy to see where I come. That makes it
Yeah.
easy too.
Yeah, it does, where they're
Especially
nice
for
together.
My boyfriend who's like, which one do I
No,
take? And
it's just with my team, so I can answer any more questions you have.
What else?
The gun.
Gums.
Oh, as far as like inflammation and
Yeah,
the,
okay.
so then it comes down to a dosage issue as well, because any gums that we use are just for stability to make sure we have that quality and shelf life,
Yeah,
and so the usage levels are incredibly small.
okay.
So I think
There's a lot of protein powders have it, like, I don't know, these people are trying to slowly
Get those
go
out.
away from the
Yes.
gums, and it isn't a lot. And I, like, even going gluten-free, there's gums.
well, because they're trying to mimic the texture of everything. And so we use them minimally where we can. And I know another one that comes up quite a bit is carrageenan. And so that I actually wanted to answer because that one's come up quite a
What's
bit.
it in?
So it's in the skincare. So it's in, and that's why it's going to be okay. And I'll explain why. Because carrageenan, I know in ingestibles has kind of a negative perception, and we don't use it. But for skincare, it's a generic label name for any kind of seaweed or any sort of plant from the ocean. And so the particular brown and red algae that we use in it's in True Renew and it's also in True Hydrate, was actually specifically chosen for skincare because it helps increase the natural moisturizing factors within your skin, your hyaluronic acid, your ceramides, etc. And it's a seaweed, and so that's the generic name we have to put on the label. But it was specifically actually created for skincare. It's an activator, and it has extensive safety, and it's not working through any of the same mechanisms that a carrageenan in ingestibles. Yes. So just to go ahead and that's one we've gotten quite a bit.
Because I don't touch that, ever.
Yes, and so we can't because of there's a nomenclature organization that dictates what we have to put on our label. So we have to label it as carrageenan, but that's when we've been explaining is we're like, no. Different, that's a broad category that includes a lot of things. And the ingredient that we're using in True Renew and True Hydrate is actually anti-inflammatory versus inflammatory like they experience ingestibles. So just to know that as you see that on the label with those, it's in a very different category, and you can and it's a brown red algae.
Okay.
Yeah. And so it's just a generic name for explaining it. Yes. Because sometimes what raw material suppliers will do is they'll pick a very generic name to register something with the government because it's easier to get it approved and they don't have to go through so much red tape instead of coming up with a unique name like the Latin name for the plant. And so it works well for them because they can speed it through, but then for us, we have a generic name.
Okay.
And so any of our marketing materials that you see, it'll be the red-brown algae there, and you'll see all of the activating benefits that it has.
Perfect.
So yes.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, no problem. And if you think of any additional ingredients that you have questions on, we have a product questions email, just product questions, and there's an S at the end at LifeVantage.com.
Okay.
And so we answer all of those within a week. I actually sit down. So some of them our product marketing team answers if they're the basic ones, if they're the more intense ones, or if they're skincare. A lot of times they come over to me and I answer them once a week. And so you'll hear it directly. Correct. And so anything you have in there, send it. And it used to be a little bit longer turnaround, but we've tightened that sucker up to it's about a week that we turn around.
Okay.
And literally every Friday I sit down with my team and we walk through all of those Friday afternoon. So if you get it in before Friday afternoon, or if you send it on a Friday, you'll get an answer pretty quickly because that's when I'm sitting down and doing though.
Okay.
But yeah, please reach out with more as you think about